one country, the clock changes twice a year. On a cruise ship, it changes twice a week. Hey sailors, welcome back to Cruising as Crew. My name is Lucy, and today we're going to be talking about some general skills that I think you need for any job on board cruise ships. But before we start, please press like and subscribe for more cruise ship content, and if you have any video suggestions, please leave them in the comments down below, or you can DM me over on Instagram at Cruising as Crew. But as for now, let's get into this video. Working on cruise ships is a lifestyle. It's not just a job, because it consumes your whole life. You are living on a ship. So it doesn't matter what job you do on board, you are going to need some basic skills just to be able to live on ships. We're going to go through some skills that will make you more desirable to work on cruise ships. If you have these skills on your CV, the cruise line's going to be like, ooh. So if you want to work on cruise ships, keep watching, because it doesn't matter what job you want to do on board, these skills are transferable, and if you have these skills, it will make you more desirable for any job on board. So the first skill, you might have guessed it, is language. If you can speak more than one language, that's great. Crew members from all over the world, passengers from all over the world, depending on where your cruise ship is, there might be a lot of Spanish speaking guests, there might be a lot of Russian speaking guests. So whatever languages you speak, make sure you put it on your CV. But just to add, if you do put a second language or a third or a fourth language on your CV, it could potentially dictate where you go. If you speak Russian as a second language, they're going to put you on a ship with a lot of Russian passengers so they can make the most of your talent, of your ability to speak Russian. But that means that you might always be put on cruise ships that are in the Baltic or just wherever there's a lot of passengers that speak Russian. Like my friend is Chinese, she was always put on ships that went around Asia, specifically Chinese itineraries. While you as an English American person might be thinking, oh my god, China, that's amazing. That's like me being sent around the British Isles. I'm from England, I want to go abroad. And that was exactly how she felt. She was like, I love China, I love my country, but I did join cruise ships so I could see the world. So I'm not really overly happy about going around China. So my point is, yes, having a language is amazing and you should put it on your CV, but it might sway what ship they put you on. On my first contract, I was on Rhapsody of the Seas. When Rhapsody was going to South America, where a lot of the passengers would be Spanish speaking, it was a requirement that 90% of the crew had to be Spanish speaking. And little old me, as much as I wish I could, can't speak Spanish, so I got transferred. That was the reason I got transferred. So language is a huge part of it, really. Obviously, whatever job you do, you have to be able to communicate with the guests. If you're on a ship where 90% of the passengers are Chinese and you can't speak Chinese, you're going to have a problem. But yes, multilingual people are incredibly desirable to, well, any company, but especially cruise ships. Multilingual people are just amazing. Language really isn't my thing, and I really admire anyone who can speak more than one language. The second one is problem solving. Cruise ships, it's a very fast-paced environment. Things are changing constantly. Fires are coming and being put out constantly. Not actual fires, I mean like problems. And you have to be able to think on your feet. Now granted, you will get better at this the more you do it, but you have to be able to use your initiative. There is nothing more annoying as a guest in a hotel or a passenger if you go to a crew member with a problem and they're too scared to veer off the rule book. And if the solution to your problem isn't in that rule book, your problem isn't getting solved. You are not going to get in trouble for fixing a problem. So sometimes you just need to use your initiative. What would I want a crew member to do if I was having this problem? Empathize with the person and try and fix their problem. Also, there's problems with crew members. I think I discussed this in how to separate personal and professional, but you are going to have issues with co-workers, colleagues that you need to put out. You need to be a peacemaker, you need to resolve it. Cruise ships, it's too intense, it's too close of an environment for you to let things fester. So you really need to nip things in the bud and just use your initiative and be able to sometimes be the bigger person. But I've noticed that if you interview for a job that's customer based, because while I've been home I've been doing interviews because I found jobs, you know, to tide me over before I go on Virgin. One of the things that they'll ask you, I think I've been asked this in 80% of interviews, is tell me a time that you resolved something with a customer without your manager's permission. And I remember the first time I was asked that, I was like, what? They're asking you to see if this person can use their initiative, or every time there's a problem you're gonna have to go running to the manager like, there's a problem, can you come and fix it? They want people who can think for themselves and fix a problem on their own. So anything you can put on your CV, your application letter, or that you can tell your recruiter in the interview about a time where you were able to solve a problem on your own because you used your initiative, that's going to go a long way. The next one, which is pretty damn obvious, customer service. Cruise ships are just floating hotels, which means that it is all about the customer, the guest, the passenger, whatever you want to call them. It's all about them. The passenger is always right. And the only reason you're there, the only reason that you have the job that you do, is to enhance the passenger, the guest experience. Your customer service skills have to be on point. You have to be likable. You have to be able to hold a conversation. So once again, anything like this that you can show through your CV, your interview, is great. Customer service skills kind of ties hand in hand with people skills, but it's invaluable. You are going to be surrounded by people all the time. You need to be able to have good people and customer service skills to work on a cruise ship. Adaptability. First, you're going to go and live on a ship on the sea. Then, you're going to be in a different destination every day. Also, the passengers are going to rotate every week. The crew members are going to rotate regularly. So just as you get used to some crew members being there, they're going to leave. You're also going to have to get used to sharing a cabin with a complete stranger. Because crew members rotate, you might have up to 3 managers in one contract. I made a video. I had 7 managers in one contract. So it is vital that you are able to adapt. You're able to go with the flow, roll with the punches, and adapt to different situations. And yes, this will also get easier the more you do it. When I first went on ships, it took me ages to feel at home. And then again, when I left my first contract and went home, that was just confusing because I went from being on the cruise ship where things go at 100 miles an hour to going home on vacation where it's 1 mile an hour. That was like, oh my God. And actually you don't expect to have to adapt to going home because it's like, well, it's home. It's like my comfort zone, it'll be fine. But there is a huge adjustment period that takes place, especially when you go home from your first contract. But all I'm saying is, if you're someone that gets anxious at the slightest change, you know, you need to have things all planned out, you are going to struggle. I'm not going to lie. You have to be able to just accept that things change all the time. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. That is honestly the best way I can say it. You'll go into work at the start of the day with a plan for how the day's gonna go, and then 50 things will change. You were doing a seminar at 1, but now you're doing the seminar at 11 in the morning. This perfume was meant to be on promotion, but now this perfume's on promotion. This show was going to be shown in the atrium at 9 o'clock, but now it's the other show because it's too rocky. There's so much that changes just within a day. And then there's the bigger stuff that changes, like your manager might get transferred and a new manager might come. Your cabin might finish a contract and then you have to adjust to a whole new cabin mate. There's time changes all the time. When we were doing the Malta Med itinerary on Oceania, I think we went like an hour forward at the beginning of the week and an hour back at the end of the week. You think if you live in one country, the clock changes twice a year. On a cruise ship, it changes twice a week. So it's even the time you have to adjust to. And I know that when I'm saying it now, you're like, oh my God, how am I going to do that? You will do it. Everyone does it. It honestly just becomes normal. But I just want you to expect it. It's a big skill to be able to adapt. And the older I'm getting and the less things seem to go to plan, the more I'm realizing how valuable it is, not just for working on cruise ships, but just for general life. You know, not to lose my shit every time something doesn't go to plan. And that's a big thing for cruise lines. You know, they hire crew members, they put a lot of money into crew members paying for flights, medicals, trainings, all of that stuff. And if that crew member gets on board and a month into their contract, they're like, I hate this because I don't like living on a ship, it's too fast paced, things are changing all the time, and they decide that they want to go home, that company has lost a lot of money. If you can somehow prove that you are able to adapt to different situations, that's a really vital skill. You know what, I'm probably gonna say below like customer service and people skills, it's gonna be like the second most important, probably like joint with people skills. You have to be able to adapt at an insane rate. Be open-minded. So I have learnt so much working on cruise ships, and I've probably learnt more than I've registered that I've learnt, if that makes sense, because I've learnt about cultures, about languages, about belief systems, different ways of dealing with things. I've learnt a lot about myself. You can learn something from every single person you meet in this life. And going on cruise ships, you're going to meet a lot of people. Don't go on board with the attitude of, my way is the right way and I know everything and I don't need to learn anything. I don't care how old you are. We are always learning. And if you're younger, you're probably not going to go on board with that attitude anyway. You know, you're young and you're like, oh, I'm going to learn everything. But it's when you get older that you get stuck in your ways. You get rigid. So what I'm saying is be loose and be willing to learn things. Like, it's an experience that you can get so much out of if you just keep your mind open. Patience. Like any customer service job, there are days where you're like, today ain't the day. I've had customers yell at me, try and argue with me. 95% of passengers are lovely. I'm lucky, I haven't really had many bad experiences, but you know, there's a passenger, they're having a bad day because it's cloudy outside and they wanted to sunbathe, and you're the first person they see, so they're going to take it out on you. It's just how it is sometimes. Anyone who works in a customer service job will know. You have to be able to smile, even when you don't want to. But also, genuinely not let it ruin your day. I read a book called The Power of Now. Definitely recommend reading it. It's actually like the top 10 books to read. If you Google top 10 books to read, it's one of them. So it's a good read. But it's all about letting things go. If a customer comes and yells at me, I have the choice. I can let that go, or I can let that fester and literally let it ruin my day. And in the past, you better believe I've let it ruin my day. But not anymore. I'm not going to let it ruin my peace. If she wants to yell at me about those hair straighteners, that's fine. I'm just gonna let it go when she walks out the door. And it's easier said than done, and practice makes perfect. The more you do it, the easier it gets. But yeah, you have to have so much patience. And not only with guests, with crew members. You're surrounded by crew members all the time. You have a roommate. You know, you're not always gonna be compatible with your roommate. You can be friends with someone, but that doesn't mean that you can live together. There's a lot of times where you're gonna have to bite your tongue and take the high road and be the bigger person. And I don't mean let people walk all over you. I've done that in the past as well. Set your boundaries, get your point across, but patience is a big one. Time management. You work on a ship, there is literally no excuse to be late. If you're late for work, you can't blame it on the traffic because you had to probably take 2 sets of stairs up to the floor that you work at. And since there's no excuses, you have to be on time. When you're off in port, you have to make sure you're back on board the ship before the ship leaves. When you're working on cruise ships, you are gonna live by your watch. You're gonna live by the clock. So it's really important that you get good at it. If you're one of these people that are always late, you arrange to meet your friends at 4, so you leave the house at 4, when you actually should be there at 4. But people are like, it's just Jennifer, that's just how she is. Nah, yeah, you're gonna get that kicked out of you real fast. Lateness is you just can't be late. It just doesn't fly on cruise ships. You just have to get real good at time management. And especially if you're off in port, you know, let's say crew all aboard is 7, which means crew members have to be on board by 7 p.m. You are somewhere that is a half an hour taxi ride away from the port. You have to leave at 6. And you're like, no, 5:30. No, you have to leave at 6 because you have to take into account there might be traffic. The taxi might break down. The taxi driver might get lost. This has happened. Or the most common one, when you get back to the ship, there's going to be a very long line of passengers waiting to get on, like a line that might take half an hour to go down. And it doesn't matter. You are still expected to be on board by 7 o'clock. And no, you can't push in front of the passengers because you have work at 7:30. You have to get to the back of the line and wait like everybody else. You have to think ahead and you have to leave time for every eventuality. And if you are going to be late, sometimes, you know, it happens. The taxi driver gets lost, you break down. If you are going to be late back to the ship, it's imperative that you let them know. But I always make sure that I have like some of the security team on Facebook. I definitely have my manager's number. And I mean, normally you'll have like a WhatsApp group with everyone that you work with, and you tell as many people as you can. You tell everyone you know as security, you tell your manager, you tell all your team members, hey, I've broken down, my taxi driver's got lost, I'm getting back as soon as I can, hold the ship. If you let people know, they know that you're trying to come back but you've just got into a sticky situation, they're going to be a hell of a lot more lenient with you than if you don't let them know and you just show up at like 7:45 and the ship is waiting for you, because it costs a lot of money for a cruise ship to stay in a port past its due time. So yeah, make sure you get good at keeping track of the time. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you have found this video helpful. If you have, press the like button and the subscribe button because I post videos every Wednesday and Sunday. But thank you so much once again, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.